Hey, welcome back to another episode of Brew Talk Geek. I'm Dustin Brighter, and this is Nom Talk Network. Today I'm going to be going through a couple beer mixtures from Ireland using Guinness, a pale ale, and a cider. All big things in Ireland. Usually use Bass. Today I'm going to be using Sierra Nevada. Usually use something like Magners. Today I'm going to be using Angry Orchard. A lot easier to come by, especially in today's current pandemic status. So the first one that I'm going to be doing is called a half and half. Now you will hear this referred to sometimes as a black and tan. Don't refer to it as that. Black and tan, unfortunately, also has a pretension to the British paramilitary forces created to suppress the Irish independence movement in 1920 and 21, and they did so wildly violently. They're called so because of the black shirts and khaki pants that they wore as part of their uniform. Most of it was left over from World War I. So, don't go to an Irish bar and order a black and tan. Same thing, don't go to an Irish bar and order an Irish car bomb. There's another name for it. There's Irish bomb, Irish shot, Irish drop. There's a bunch of names for it that aren't offensive. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to want to open our pale ale. Now you'll see me say a lot of times on the show, tilt your glass properly, pour, get yourself a nice thing, blah, blah, blah. This, you're gonna wanna pour it aggressively because you want a nice thick head on there. As we let that head kind of settle out for a second, you take your spoon, it's the easiest way that I've found, and you're gonna pour very slowly over the back of the spoon. Now what this will do is allow the beer drink to layer the Guinness on top of the pale ale. And yes, I know, this is a very slow, semi-arduous process. The reason it does this is that while the pale ale is carbonated, the Guinness is actually nitrogenized, which is a lighter gas, therefore causing the technically heavier beer, lower specific gravity, to float on top. Now I am not the best at making these, do not get me wrong. Now, there we are, half and half. So when you drink this, you're going to want to get a nice good mouthful of the head, and then you're going to want to take a nice sip, kind of mixing both of those beers together. Now this used to be technically just a mixed beer. They would just pour both beers in there way back when, but since then it's kind of become a layered drink, just like the second drink that I'm going to show you. So first, let's enjoy a half and half. Oh, that's pretty good. That was not bad at all. Now as you drink, you will notice that it will start to sort of curl down here. They almost look like solar flares if you want to get poetic with it, which I like to do with beer. The great thing about half and halves is that you get that nice chocolatey kind of stout taste, but it's cut. It's not quite as thick, and I'm not a big stout person, but I can do half and halves. I can do snake bites. The next drink we'll be exploring, I learned is called a snake bite. Now I've since learned that that's specifically pear cider and Guinness. However, we'll be using an Angry Orchard apple today. Now this one's a little bit more difficult, and you may not see me make a great one today, specifically because cider doesn't have quite the head on it that the pale ale does. So it's a little bit harder to keep the stout from mixing. Slowly, slowly as we pour. You can see it's mixing a little bit. For the most part, we're keeping them separate. Well done. And there you have a snake bite, looking very similar to the half and half with a very different taste. The nice sugar and really crisp sweetness and that kind of crisp dry apple taste really melds in with the stout, those nice dark chocolate thick tastes that you kind of get from that. And it also cuts the thickness of the stout in the first place, which makes it a little more enjoyable to drink, at least for me. An interesting thing about the half and half and the snake bite and all these mixed drinks like this is that in Ireland for a long time it wasn't possible to make them in different sizes. You couldn't order a half pint of half and half. The things came in pint, half pint, and third pint. But you couldn't make a half pint of half and half because that would be a quarter pint of each thing, which was illegal to pour less than a third serving or a half serving or a pint serving. Interesting to me that they would limit the low end. You have to order at least this much. Snake bite. Oof. A little messy. That's good stuff. So though we're all in the pandemic and none of us can really see each other safely, I really hope you have a good St. Patrick's Day. Have some Guinness, have some harp, have some love, have some joy. Get some green. Celebrate the fact that we're all here. I've been Dustin Brighter. This has been Brew Talk Geek on Nom Talk Network. Happy St. Patrick's Day.